Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm, and you are watching What If Naruto was neglected by his family and found Hōgyoku. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
The Konoha hospital was extremely noisy. You could hear nurses and doctors conversing and doors slamming, but most of all, you could hear Kushina Uzumaki, who was currently yelling at the top of her lungs as the nurse tried to calm Kushina. She screamed at her husband, Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage, who was flinching in the corner. "Damn you, Minato. I'm going to rip your balls out through your," she said. "Calm down. Calm down? I'm giving birth to triplets and you want me to calm down?" She screamed. "Kushina, please try to rela," said Minato, "it will be over soon." "I can see ahead, Kushina-san, one more push and the first baby will be out," said the nurse. Kushina cried out, "Ah," as the baby emerged. After cutting the umbilical cord, the nurse gave the child to Kushina and said, "It's a boy, what will you name him?" Kushina held the boy tenderly and said, "Naruto," saying, "Naruto Namikaze." She then let out a painful cry when the next child arrived, saying, "Congratulations, it's a girl." Kushina said, "Naruto." When the third child arrived, she didn't even scream, she said, "Natsumi." While holding her other daughter next to her other kids, she said, "Minato, come see our kids." Minato approached, but before he could pick them up, a Chunin rushed through the door. The man shouted, "Yondaime-sama, the Kyuubi is attacking." "What?" exclaimed Minato. He used Hiraishin to flash to the battlefield and gave the order, "Stay here with Kushina, and give her a sedative." There was complete chaos on the battlefield when Minato arrived. The Kyuubi were in the center of the chaos, which included uprooted trees, fires, and dead bodies. Its fangs and claws turned red, and its red-orange coat gleamed in the moonlight. Minato made the hand gesture, summoning jutsu, and a puff of smoke emerged, followed by a giant red toad with Tonto by its side. "What do you want now, Jiraiya?" The toad responded, "Sorry Gamabunta, but I'm not Jiraiya." He interrupted himself when he saw Kyuubi, saying, "Oh, Minato, what can I do for why? Oh, yeah, you need help. Gee, thanks for pointing out the obvious, Bunta. Anyway, let's kick his." "Very well." Gamabunta then leapt high in the air, shouting, "Water bullets," as he launched his attack, which soaked his fur and hit the Kyuubi, making him even more agitated. "Raw. For that, you repulsive toad. I'll rip you to pieces." Minato said, "Bunta, I need you to hold him off. Shikifuin is the only way to beat him. Are you sure, Minato?" "Yes, that's the only way." "All right," Minato said, flashing back to the hospital. "Very well, then I'll hold him off while you prepare the seal." He took two of his children from her sleeping form and said, "Sorry, Kushina-chan," before flashing back to the battlefield. He had no idea that he had taken his daughters and that Naruto had been abandoned. "Minato," he said, "shouldn't you be trying to stop the beast?" The retired Sandaime Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi was assisting the injured in getting to safety when Minato returned to the battlefield. He inquired. "I am," Minato said, holding up his kids, "and I'm going to use the Shikifuin to seal him in my children." "Minato, you can't be serious," he said. "Oh, but I am Sarutobi, and the Shikifuin is the only way to stop him." "Then let me do the sealing, Minato," Sarutobi said. "No, Sarutobi, I'm Hokage now, and as such it's my duty to protect the citizens of Konoha with my life if necessary." "I'm sorry, Minato," he said, taking the girls, "but you're too young to die yet." Then Sarutobi went up to the Kyuubi and said, "What's this? You're sending just one man? And an elderly man at that? Ha! Come on, old man, I'll hasten your demise." "Kyuubi, I don't think so," Sarutobi said as he did the required hand seals, Shikifuin. As the Shinigami's spectral form materialized behind him, he yelled, "Who has called me?" "Shinigami-sama is with me to seal the Kyuubi into these kids. I would be willing to give my soul." "Are you certain you want to do this?" The Shinigami said, "Yes, I am sure." "Very well then." He reached forward and tore Sarutobi's soul from his body before turning to face the Kyuubi and snatching his soul. "What? No." The shinobi simply stared at the location where the Kyuubi had been for about a minute before departing to gather the dead. "I will not be defeated. I am the mightiest of all Biju, the king of hell, a true pain in the—" "Yes, we get it already," the Shinigami said before sealing the Kyuubi's soul into Naruto and Natsumi and vanishing. When Minato opened his eyes, his pupil Kakashi's face was the first thing he saw. "Minato-sensei, are you okay?" "Yes, I am alright. What happened?" "Damn you, Sarutobi. Sarutobi-sama sealed the Kyuubi into your daughters. It was my responsibility to perform the sealing, Minato-sensei?" "I'm fine. Kakashi, just take me to my daughters," Kakashi was asked. As he carried his daughters back to Konoha, Kakashi remarked, "Very well, sensei. Naruto, Natsumi, you are both destined for greatness, I can feel it." 7-year time jump. Watching his daughters spar, Minato sighed. It felt like just yesterday that Kushina had scolded him for what had transpired. Rewind 7 years. Kakashi accompanied Minato as he carried his daughters back to Konoha, asking, "What will happen now, sensei?" "Well, Kakashi, I'm going to tell the village how Sarutobi died, and how Kyuubi is sealed inside my daughters. You know they won't like that, sensei." "I know, Kakashi, I know. Talking about which, sensei, what do you think Kushina will do to you when she learns about what happened?" Kakashi asked. Minato visibly paled at this. "Oh shit." In order to keep his wife from being angry at him for not telling her first, he said this before flashing away to her. Before vanishing in a leaf shunshin, Kakashi simply shook his head and said, "You will be missed, sensei." Naruto was crying in his cradle and Kushina was screaming hysterically when Minato entered the hospital room. "Minato, help. Natsumi and Naruto are not there," she yelled at him. "It's okay, Kushina, they're right here, my darlings." "Oh god, I was so worried. Kushina sobbed as she rushed to Minato and grabbed the girls from him, rocking them against her chest. As she examined her daughter more closely, Kushina remarked, "Minato." "Yes, Kushina? Ah well, you see the Kyuubi attacked and the Sandaime defeated it by sealing him into Naruto and Natsumi," Minato said menacingly. "Why do my baby girls have whisker marks?" "He what? And you let him do it?" she screamed. Now Kushina, don't be hasty," she yelled at him before setting the girls down. "Minato," she said, cracking her knuckles as a death aura surrounded her. "Minato," she said in a low, dangerous voice, "you had better start running and you sure as hell better hope that I don't catch you." She ran out of the room with Kushina chasing him all over Konoha for the next 2 hours before finally catching up to him. "Of course not, Minato," she said in a sickly sweet tone of voice, then kicked him in the groin as hard as she could before beating the living daylights out of him. The memory made Minato shudder. The beating he had received from Kushina had made the one Tsunade had given Jiraiya when she discovered him snooping on her seem like a love tap. Minato scowled as he saw Naruto look dejected from the window, and he sighed that it had really hurt him to have to forego his training, but that his sisters needed it more than he did. Naruto watched his sisters for another minute before turning back to his book on quantum physics. Even at this age it was clear that he was a genius. He heard the door open and closed his book. "Maybe now I can finally convince Toussaint and Ka-san to train me," he thought as he headed down the stairs, wincing each step. You see, when the Yondaime announced that his daughters were Jinchuriki, many of the civilians wanted them to be killed, but the Hokage forbade it and passed a law stating that if they were attacked then the attackers would be sentenced to prison for 10 years. Many of the civilians and quite a few ninja were angry at this, but they soon found a loophole. While the Hokage said that they couldn't touch his daughters, he never said anything about Naruto, and as such every time he left his house he was beaten and abused by ninjas and civilians, and as such he felt that he needed more training than his sisters, but he was always denied. This has caused Naruto to not only hate Konoha, but his family as well. "Could you please train me, Toussaint and Ka-san?" As his family entered the room, he asked with hope. "Sorry, Naruto," Kushina said as she saw him, "but we have to take your sisters to a Tsunade and Jiraiya for ETRA training." "Oh," Naruto replied. "Okay, I'm gonna go for a walk then," he shouted as he ran out the door with tears in his eyes. "Okay," Kushina said nonchalantly as she watched him leave, saying, "Come on girls, let's go." "Why don't they love me?" was Naruto's current cry as he stood in the Forbidden Forest. While running along, he screamed in agony, Why are they so much better than me?" He sobbed. Then the answer came to him, "Power. They're loved because they have Kyuubi power. If I had more power then they would all love me as well." He thought. So deep was he in thought that he didn't notice the hole in the ground until he fell down it. When he hit the ground and blacked out, he screamed and fell a good 15 feet. After 3 hours, "Ugh," Naruto moaned as he sat up and slowly opened his eyes. "What happened?" he asked. It was then that he noticed that he was in a cave and that there was a blue-violet glow coming from a pedestal in the center of the cave. Naruto cautiously approached the pedestal and saw that the glow was coming from a small orb. "What is that?" "I am the Hogyoku, child," he said to himself. "The Hogyoku?" "Yes, now tell me, do you want power?" it inquired. "You are the second person to discover me here. Over the last 5,000 years, I have been here, and even then, that one wasn't deserving of my power. Tell me, do you want power? Enough power to become a god?" the Hogyoku inquired. "I could leave this place and finally be respected if I had the power to become a god," he thought. "You could grant me this power?" "Yes, I can make you a god, he said, but it would take time. All right, what must I do? Just pick me up and swallow me, Naruto said, and the Hogyoku replied, swallow you? Yes, swallow me, said Naruto incredulously. After that is finished, I can grant you the abilities that my previous wielder possessed prior to his merging with me, but it will take 8 years before I can begin your transformation into a god. You will feel pain unlike anything you have ever experienced, so be prepared. Then Naruto picked it up, swallowed it, and fell to the ground. His internal organs began to liquefy, his blood began to boil in his veins, and his chest became heavy, making breathing difficult. After screaming in agony, he eventually passed out. In the mindscape of Naruto, the sand felt so soft that Naruto moaned as he rolled on the ground, unwilling to get up. Sand, hold on. When did Konoha get its sand? He pondered. He jumped up and down, alert and prepared for anything. As he looked around, he could see that he was in a vast desert of white sand, and in the distance, he could just make out the outline of a palace of some sort. Naruto heard a man ask in a deep, calming voice, "Are you impressed?" Naruto turned to see a man wearing long white robes that were bound with a purple sash. The man's hair was slicked back, and a stray bang hung over his forehead. He had brown eyes. He said, "Who are you? And where are we?" "I am the Hogyoku," said the individual. "As for where we are, well, we are in the land of Hueco Mundo, and that is the palace of Las Noches off in the distance, but more specifically, we are in your mindscape," the man said. "Mindscape? What's that? Why does it look like this? And why do you look like that?" he inquired. "Your mindscape is a physical manifestation of your soul. Before it was just a blank slate, but upon swallowing me it changed to look like my last place of residence," the Hogyoku said. "And the reason I look like this is because this was the form of my previous wielder, Aizen Sosuke." Naruto said, "Okay, so if this is my soul, then why am I here?" The Hogyoku retorted, "You are here because you passed out after you swallowed me." The Hogyoku leaned forward and tapped Naruto on the forehead as soon as he said, "But now is not the time for questions. I'm going to give you Aizen's powers, but they would be useless to you since I can't teach you about them, so I will also give you his memories." Foreign memories flooded Naruto's mind, causing him to grunt in pain. A room with a white throne and errand cars. Momo Hinamori was stabbed in the chest. The last shadows as Kurosaki used Mugetsu to kill him. When Naruto opened his eyes, he screamed in agony and lay on the ground. Panting, he looked around and saw a katana with a green hilt and a diagonal guard. His hand automatically closed around it. He heard the name in his mind. Kyoka Suigetsu. As he held the blade in front of him, Naruto remarked, Mirror Flower Water Moon. A fitting name for a blade built upon illusions. You should leave now, Naruto. You've been unconscious for 4 hours. Very well, Hogyoku-san, I will see you later then. Naruto then exited his mindscape. He decided to create one using his newly learned abilities. After opening his eyes and noticing that there was no Eid, he pointed to the ceiling and began chanting. You who bear the name of man, mask of blood and flesh, flutter of wings, inferno and pandemonium, sea barrier surges, march on to the south. Hado number 31 Shakaho. Before he fired it and made a huge hole in the ceiling, a big ball of red flame gathered in Naruto's hand before jumping out of the hole. Naruto waited for the debris to stop falling. Naruto looked around and saw that there was no sign of an Eid and that he was in the center of the forest of death. Naruto began chanting once more as he drew a symbol in the ground. Heart of the south, eye of the north, finger of the west, foot of the east, arrive with the wind and depart with the rain. Bakudo number 58 Kakushitsuyaku. Naruto concentrated on his sister's energy and discovered that they were 3 miles south of him. After using Shunpo, Naruto ended up in his family's mansion's basement. Naruto glanced around to orient himself. He said, impressive, adding, I will become a god and surpass all other shinobi with my new powers. Naruto then went out into the streets of Konoha, saying, but first I must obtain new attire and find someone to teach me how to wield a sword. He strolled through the streets, observing how ninja and civilians alike regarded him with hatred and contempt. Walking down the street, Naruto came across a clothes store he knew would treat him fairly. The man behind the counter looked up as he opened the door. Ah, hello Namikaze-san. How can I help you? He inquired. Naruto answered, I'd like some new clothes. The man said, of course Namikaze-san, feel free to look around. After searching the store for the type of attire worn by Soul Reapers, Naruto eventually discovered a set of black shiakusho and hakama, which he secured with a white obi. He then picked up a white haori with the kanji for 5 on the back, and he purchased a pair of zori and white socks to finish the picture. He thought to himself, something's missing, and then he reached for a pair of black, rectangular glasses. He put Kyoka Suigetsu in his obi and hurriedly changed into the outfit. Then Naruto approached the clerk. I'm glad that you found everything to your liking, Namikaze-san. That will be 300 ryo. The worker replied after giving the man his money and nodding. Naruto set out to try to locate Hayate Geku. The only man in the village he knew was skilled with a sword. Naruto was on his way to locate Hayate. He nearly slapped himself when he stopped in the middle of the road and asked, "Why am I doing this the hard way when I have Kido?" He pondered. He then went into a back alley, where he drew a symbol in the dirt and began chanting after making sure no one was watching or listening. After casting the Kido, Naruto found that Hayate was at training ground 5. He shunned Pioed until he was a short distance away and began walking towards the training ground. Heart of the south, eye of the north, finger of the west, foot of the east, arrive with the wind and depart with the rain. Bakudo number 58 Kakushitsuyaku. When Hayate looked up, Naruto was coming. Before he started coughing, he said, "Hello Naruto-san, what can I do for you?" After waiting patiently for the fit to pass, Naruto said, "Hayate-san, I was wondering if you would be able to teach me how to use my katana." "I'm not sure. I don't think I'd be a very good teacher," Hayate replied. "Oh come on Hayate-san, you'd make a great teacher. Besides, you are the only proficient kenjutsu user in the village. Will you please teach me?" After giving it some thought, Hayate saw the Yondaime Hokage's son standing in front of him, requesting swordsmanship training. It was unthinkable. "All right, Naruto-san, if you insist, I'll teach you kenju." Hayate got up and started coughing. Naruto said, "Thank you, Hayate-san, I'll see you tomorrow," and turned to leave. Naruto thought, "Now I have a reason to use Kyoka Suigetsu without suspicion. All I need now are 2 devoted goons, like Jin and Tosen." Naruto continued to walk when he heard a sound that sounded like someone slamming a training post hard and repeatedly. He glanced around and saw that he was close to the training area. As a naturally inquisitive person, Naruto chose to look into it. As he entered the training area, he noticed a boy who might have been a year older than him hitting a wooden practice dummy. As he approached, he noticed that the boy had long brown hair and the typical Hyuga white eyes. He also saw that the boy had a frown on his face and the caged bird seal on his forehead. The boy finally noticed him as he approached. "Who are you and what are you doing here?" asked the man. "I should hope you know who I am. The name is Naruto Namikaze. I heard the sound of training and decided to investigate, although I'm curious, why are you striking so hard?" The boy's frown widened at this. "I am kept from justice through fate. As a member of the branch family, I must serve the main house faithfully like a dog," he concluded. The boy spat venomously. "They treat us like dogs, give us no rights, we have no justice, and the seal allows them to discipline us." "Yes, the caged bird seal, which is supposed to hurt the person wearing it. How would you respond if I gave you a way out of it and the ability to get justice?" While considering how beneficial it would be to have a Hyuga loyal to him, Naruto posed the question. "Impossible. My fate is set. There is no way to change my destiny," the Hyuga replied. "Hyuga, what is your name?" inquired Naruto, and the boy said, "Neji." "Well Neji, what I speak of is not impossible. I know of a way, so tell me, what would you do if I freed you and gave you a means to justice?" "I would be indebted to you and would help you achieve your goal as you would help me achieve mine. However, that will not happen because I am bound by these chains of fate." Naruto was speaking with the Hogyoku as he listened to Neji's words. "Hogyoku-san, would it be possible for you to remove the seal and give him all of Tosen's powers?" "You insult me, Naruto. Such a thing is trivial and can easily be accomplished. All you have to do is push your Ritsu through his forehead. Be warned though, you can only do this 8 times, after that you will have to make do with who and what you have." "Thank you for informing me, Hogyoku-san, especially the limit. It is useful to know that I will be able to change 7 others after Neji." Then Naruto returned his focus to Neji, who continued to babble on about fate and destiny. Naruto pushed Ritsu through his ind after slapping him across the face to silence him. Using his finger to poke Neji in the forehead caused a bright white light to shine throughout the area. When the glow subsided, Neji was dressed similarly to Naruto, with the exception that his haori had the kanji for 9, and he was wearing an orange scarf and white sunglasses. In addition, he wore black fingerless gloves, white boots, and a shiakusho with its sleeves rolled up. A katana with an orange handle and a ring close to the hilt was by his side. Neji glanced around before turning to face himself. He demanded, "What did you do to me?" Naruto calmly said, "I gave you the power to obtain your justice and freed you from your burden. Look at your forehead. You will see that I speak the truth and I have freed you of your burden." When Neji saw that the seal was no longer there, he stared in wonder at his reflection in the pond with hesitation. He raised a trembling hand to touch his forehead, and his hand verified that the seal had vanished. Then, with tears of joy, Neji collapsed to the ground and turned to face Naruto. Thank you, Naruto-sama, You have freed me of my burden and have given me back my life. It is only proper that I now help you achieve your goals as you have helped me achieve mine, he said while sobbing. Rise Neji, for now you are to simply do as I do and grow stronger, and until I call on you again you are to simply act as you did before I freed you. Neji stood up and began to walk back to the Hyuga compound, saying, "Yes Naruto-sama." As Naruto watched Neji leave, he grinned. "One subordinate down, one to go," was his motto as he avoided being seen at home. 2 years later, time has passed in front of Hayate. A panting 9-year-old Naruto stood. "Very well, Naruto, I'm happy to report that you are a true master of the sword and that there is nothing more I can teach you. You will have to learn this on your own from now on." "Thank you, Hayate-sensei, it has been an honor to train with you." After a brief episode of coughing, Hayate resumed, Think nothing of it Naruto, it was an honor to train the son of the Yondaime in Kenjutsu, he said, before vanishing into the shadows. Naruto shun-pyo'd to the training ground where you first met Neji, where you witnessed the young Hyuga practicing his Kenjutsu stances. "All right then," he said, "I guess I had better go see how Neji is coming along." Neji turned to face Naruto as he approached. He said, "Hello Naruto-sama." "Hello Neji, I see that you have improved greatly." "Thank you Naruto-sama, I have been training very hard so that I might help obtain justice, and then help you with your goals. Why don't we spar a little since you seem so confident?" With a faint smile on his face, Naruto inquired. "Of course Naruto-sama, I would be honored," Neji said with a sly smile before pulling out his Zanpakuto. Before drawing Kyoka Suigetsu, Naruto simply grinned at him. Then he pointed his right index finger at Neji and said, "Hado no Yan. Byakurai." As a flash of white light burst from the tip of his finger, Neji leapt aside and pointed his hand at Naruto. "Shakuho," was all that Naruto heard before a massive ball of crimson energy was hurled at him. Naruto merely extended his hand in front of him as the orb drew closer, and a dull yellow disc of spinning energy materialized. "Enkosen," he said. Blocking Neji's Shakuho with his shield, he vanished from view, only to reappear behind Neji, who had already brought down his Zanpakuto. Neji turned around and stopped the blow at the last second. Then he slashed horizontally at Naruto, who parried the blow and then countered with a thrust, which Neji deflected to the side before he swung an overhead slash at Naruto. Naruto then leaned to the side and swung a backhand cut at Neji, grazing him across the chest. This continued for a few minutes until a burst of red smoke filled the room, after which he went through a series of hand seals before yelling, "Futon! Repusho!" as he thrust his palm forward, causing the smoke to be blown away by a breeze. However, when the smoke cleared, Neji was nowhere to be seen. Just as Naruto looked up, Neji pointed his Zanpakuto above his head and moved it in a semicircle, leaving behind blade afterimages. He then thrust his sword forward, sending 100 blades hurtling toward Naruto. As the swords were about to strike, Naruto opened his mouth and ejected a lot of water while claiming, "Suijin. Suijinheki." The swords struck the water wall and lodged in it, and Neji charged towards Naruto with Suzumushi. Intending to end the spar, Naruto began weaving between the blades, but one caught his haori and stuck him to a tree. Seeing no other option, Naruto stabbed Kyoka Suigetsu in the ground before beginning more hand seals. When Naruto saw Neji charging at him, he charged forward and kicked Neji's hand, sending Suzumushi flying across the field. Neji then jumped back, performed a series of hand seals, and then put his hands to his mouth, shouting, "Kaden! Karyu Enden!" As a large flame shaped like a dragon headed towards him, Naruto then performed his own set of hand seals before slamming his hands on the ground and yelling, "Doden! Doryuheki!" as a giant earthen wall rose to protect him. Then, using his family's Jiyuken style, Neji tried to block Naruto's Tenketsu by running forward and engaging him in taijutsu. However, Naruto was not going to be easily defeated, and he went into a defensive stance and attacked Neji. This continued for several minutes as they crossed the field, and Neji was unaware that they were getting close to where Naruto had left Kyoka Suigetsu. After that, Neji used Shunpo to vanish from Neji's view, and when he turned around in desperation, he discovered that Naruto was holding Kyoka Suigetsu to his neck. Neji slowly lowered his head. "I give," he said. "You win Naruto-sama." Naruto grinned and raised Neji to his feet, but before he could say anything more, he heard a clap. Both Naruto and Neji turned in surprise to see Itachi Uchiha, the youngest member of Konoha's Anbu. He said, "Very impressive you two," Naruto said. "Thank you Itachi-san, but why were you observing us?" he inquired. With a monotone, he said, "I was on my way to file some reports when I heard saw you two sparring, so I decided to watch. I'm glad I did. Now if you'll excuse me." He then walked away. Naruto grinned, thinking that everything was going as planned, and that all he needed now was another faithful subordinate and a few more years to establish a relationship of trust. He then PO'd back home after hearing his godfather Jiraiya laugh and gritting his teeth in frustration at everyone abandoning him. He put on a fake smile and opened the door, noticing that everyone turned to stare at him as he entered. The first person was around 5 feet 9 inches and had spiky blonde hair, wearing the standard Jonin uniform with a white overcoat that had the 4th Hokage's kanji on the back. He was Minato Namikaze, Naruto's father, and the woman on his right was Kushina Uzumaki, Naruto's mother. She was about 5 feet 4 inches tall, had long red hair, and was wearing the standard Jonin uniform with a katana strapped across her back. Next to her were 2 girls, the one on the right being about 4 feet 6 inches with blue eyes, long red hair, and 3 whisker marks on her cheeks. They were Naruko Namikaze, Naruto's sister, and his other sister, Natsumi, who was about 4 feet 7 inches tall, had blonde hair and amethyst eyes, and both were dressed in red battle kimonos with shorts underneath. A man, about 5 feet 9 inches, with gravity-defying silver hair, wore the standard Jonin uniform with a face mask and his hat covering his left eye, was to Natsumi's right. He was Naruto's father's pupil. Kakashi Hitaki, a 6 feet 2 inches man with long, spiky white hair, was standing to Kakashi's left, leaning against the wall. He was wearing a mesh shirt underneath a green kimono and matching pants, a red cloak with yellow circles on the shoulders, and get it instead of the usual sandals he was Jiraiya. The Gamasanin, his teammate Tsunade, was standing next to him, standing 5 feet 3 inches and wearing her blonde hair tied back into twin ponytails. She was dressed in a green robe with the kanji word for gamble on the back, a gray kimono blouse without sleeves, and matching pants with a blue obi to fasten it. When Minato noticed Naruto's new appearance, he began to wonder, when did Naruto get a sword or even learn how to use it for that matter? The others were unable to do anything but stare at him. Additionally, when did Kami receive his glasses? The others were startled out of their reverie by Naruto's question. I'm sorry, am I interrupting something? Of course not, Naruto, we were just talking. Why don't you come and join us? Replied Minato. Yeah, come join us, Ani. Uncle Kakashi was just telling a really funny story, Natsumi responded. Before bowing and making his way to his room, Naruto remarked, I would love to Imoto, but I'm very tired. I think I'm going to bed. Good night, everyone. The next days since the academy had just begun, Minato was in his office frantically completing paperwork so that he could continue training his daughters prior to signing the final sheet and leaving for home. He was rushing through his paperwork and hardly paying attention to its contents. He might have realized what that final document he signed had been if he had bothered to listen. Namikaze Naruto and Neji Hyuga are both nominated by me, Itachi Uchiha, Anbu Captain, to serve as Anbu and be under my leadership. Both are skilled shinobi who have demonstrated the requisite abilities. The only thing left is the Hokage's approval. If you agree, kindly sign the form below. If not, send this petition back to Itachi Uchiha at the Anbu headquarters. Itachi Uchiha. The next day, after getting dressed and getting ready to leave for training, Naruto heard a knock on the door. Curious, he went to answer it and discovered Itachi Uchiha there. Good morning, Itachi-sama, what can I do for you today? Good morning, Naruto-kun, I've come to pick you up for your first day of training, he replied. Training? Training for what? A bewildered Naruto questioned. He had no recollection of requesting any special training from Itachi. Itachi showed him a slip of paper without saying anything. Under the direct supervision of Itachi Uchiha, I hereby authorize Naruto Namikaze and Neji Hyuga to join Anbu. Minato Namikaze Naruto returned the paper without saying anything, then shut and locked the door as he left. Itachi remarked, Come on, Naruto-kun, we still need to pick up Neji-kun. After that, they proceeded to the Hyuga compound, where Neji experienced the same shock as Naruto. As he led them to the Anbu headquarters and started their basic training, Itachi said, Come along you two, I don't have all day. The first day of the academy was 1 week later. As he and Kushina escorted Naruto and Kushina to the academy, Minato said, Come on, girls, you don't want to be late, do you? Natsumi grumbled, but Ka-san, To-san, Naruto Ani isn't here. Before Minato and Kushina both shunned away, Kushina said, Don't worry Natsumi, I'm sure he just decided to arrive early. Naruto chanted, Come on Natsumi, let's go, or we'll be late to class, as she hurried to their classroom. Both girls went in and took seats in the front, where they were surrounded by fanboys until the bell came to their rescue. As he entered, a chunin with brown hair pulled back in a spiky ponytail and a long scar across the bridge of his nose wore the standard uniform. In an attempt to get the students' attention, he cleared his throat. They continued talking, so he tried making his voice a little louder. Finally, he took a deep breath before using a tactic that all academy teachers seem to be familiar with. "Shut up and pay attention," he yelled, using his renowned demon head jutsu. After taking another deep breath, all of the children immediately fell silent and looked at him. "All right. Welcome to the academy. I will be your instructor for the next 3 years. My name is Iruka Amino. Now when I call your name I want you to say here, okay? Shino Aburame?" In a monotone, a boy wearing a long trench coat and sunglasses said, "Here." "Shoji Akamichi." "Here," said a rather plump boy, eating some chips with a smile. "Haruno Sakura." As she looked at Sasuke, a girl with pink hair said, "Here," with a smile. "Hinata Hyuga." An indigo-haired girl stammered out, "HH here," with shyness. "Kiba Inazaka." "Here," yelled an animalistic boy. "Naruto Namikaze." "Here," she said, a little worn out. "Naruto Namikaze." He encountered silence. He repeated, "Naruto Namikaze." And when he received no response, he looked up to see that no one was responding. "Sigh. I guess he's not here then," he said. "Natsumi Namikaze." "Here," she said anxiously, wondering why her Aniki had not appeared. "Nara, Shikamaru?" After saying, "Here," languidly, a boy with a pineapple ponytail fell back asleep. "Uchiha Sasuke." He grunted, "Here," and then resumed gazing out the window. "Yamanaka Ino," she said, "Here," before turning to look at Sasuke herself. It was going to be a long day, Iruka sighed as he concluded his roll call. Later on in the day, while strolling home from the academy, Naruto and Natsumi discussed the reason behind their Aniki's absence. "Do you believe it's because he's not interested in becoming a ninja?" Natsumi inquired. Naruto said smugly, "Nah, I bet he was just too lazy to show up. Besides, nothing he learns will make him better than us." Minato and Kushina were waiting for them when they entered their home. "Hey girls, how was today's class for you and your brother?" Kushina inquired. Naruto scowled as she heard this and remarked, "Aniki wasn't at school today." "What are you saying? It is mandatory for him to attend the academy," Minato inquired. Before leaving for their room, Naruto remarked, "Yeah, well the loser wasn't there." "Natsumi, are you certain he wasn't present?" Kushina inquired with her daughter. Then Kushina turned to Minato and said, "Hi, Ka-san, Aniki wasn't at the academy." "Minato dear, why don't you go look in his room and see if he's there?" she replied. "Sure," Minato said as he ascended the stairs to Naruto's room. When he realized that he had never been in, much less seen his son's room, he opened the door and entered. Everything appeared to be normal, with a writing desk next to a bookshelf filled with children's books, a bed pushed against the wall beneath the window, and posters of well-known shinobi on the walls. As he continued inside, he noticed a sheet of paper on the desk, which he picked up and discovered was a note addressed to him. "Since Naruto hasn't yet met expectations, I have sent him on a training mission for a few weeks. He will be alright and return shortly, dear Yandaime-sama." Itachi Uchiha Minato went downstairs after taking the note, knowing that Kushina would be furious with him for this. 2 weeks later, the council chambers in Konohagakure. Minato sighed and sat down in his chair, not understanding why the council had convened a meeting. The council fell silent as he sat down. "All right," Minato responded, "please explain to me why you have called this meeting." Shikaku Nara made a statement. "Hokage-sama, we have called this meeting to determine if certain rumors pertaining your son are true." "Oh, what rumors are you referring to?" Minato inquired. Kaharu said, "There are rumors that your son has joined Anbu." "I can assure you, Kaharu-san, that my son is not enlisted in Anbu. He is only an academy student," said Minato. "What if we could provide you with evidence?" Homura exclaimed. Homura handed Minato a piece of paper and said, "Then by all means go ahead, but I assure you that there is none." "What is this?" did he ask. "That is a document signed by you stating that you son and Neji Hyuga have your permission to join Anbu. Go ahead, read it," Kaharu replied. "I hereby authorize Naruto Namikaze and Neji Hyuga to join Anbu, working directly under Itachi Uchiha's supervision." Minato Namikaze signed it. "This is absurd, it's clearly a fake, and I would never approve of such a thing," Minato said. Minato shouted. "Perhaps you need a bit more proof then," Danzo said. "Uchiha-san, you and your team may come in now." As Danzo finished speaking, the door opened and in walked Itachi Uchiha dressed in standard Anbu gear with a white haori with the kanji for one on the back and a weasel mask. Neji to him behind him were 2 Anbu with standard uniforms, Sept one was wearing a haori with the kanji for 5 on it and had a faux mask, and the other wore a haori with the kanji for 9 on it and wore a mole mask. You may remove your masks now, Danzo said. The three reached up and removed their masks, and the council could only stare at the unmasked faces of Neji Hyuga and Naruto Namikaze. Most of the council gasped while Minato was just staring at his son and wondering if he had really signed the paper. Naruto was in Anbu now, and whether he liked it or not, he had no say in the matter. Danzo, on the other hand, was scheming. This is perfect, he thought. Now all I have to do is slip a member of Root onto the team and have them convince those two to join. Who descend? Ah, I know. Sai will be perfect. Thank you, Itachi-san. Your team will receive its third member after the meeting. Until then you are dismissed, Danzo replied. The council erupted in chaos as Itachi led Neji and Naruto out of the room, saying, "Hi, Danzo-sama." Half of them demanded that Naruto and Natsumi be enlisted right away, while the other half said that they should pull the boys out of Anbu. Minato could only stare, thinking, did I really let those two boys enter Anbu, without any formal training? I am a horrible Hokage. Not only that, but I'm a horrible father. The sound of Jiraiya kicking the wall snapped Minato out of his reverie, and he looked around the room. Remain quiet, he yelled. First of all, it was an error to put those two in Anbu, but they have already signed the contract, so I am powerless until they expire, and I'm absolutely not going to put Naruto and Natsumi in Anbu, he said. Is that all? Oh, was he going to get it from Kushina? He asked, but as he glanced around the room, he was met with silence. Very well then, you are all dismissed, Minato said, before leaving with the Hiraishin. You will join Team Itachi and report everything back to me. I especially wish to know if I will be able to turn the Namikaze to my cause, Danzo said as he watched everyone leave the room. Sai, he called out, and an Anbu appeared before him, but this one was different. He wore a purple top that cut off at his midriff, had a scroll and brush on his belt, and wore a tipless tanto on his back. Hi, Danzo-sama, what if he can't be persuaded to join you? Then you must convince him through any means necessary, said Danzo. According to the Root operative, I understand. Itachi, come meet your third team member, Danzo yelled. Team training starts at 5 tomorrow morning, don't be late, Itachi said as he and his team walked back in. Giving the operative one last glance, he walked away after saying, dismissed. Neji instantly shunned away upon hearing that, but Naruto remained. Namikaze-san, is there a reason you haven't left yet? Danzo inquired. In order to stop Danzo from lunging at him with the blade concealed in his cane, Naruto simply smiled and drew his blade, then kicked the masked Anbu in the side of the head before saying, Kudakero Kyoka Suigetsu. He then pointed at the Root operative and sea beams of yellow light shot out and trapped the operative as he said, Carriage of Thunderbridge of a spinning wheel with light, divide this into C. Before returning his focus to Danzo, who was merely standing there. Now that I have you under control, Danzo, you will tell me everything that occurs at these council meetings. You will instruct your Root members to follow my instructions, and you will let me know Orochimaru's location. Before writing the information on a scroll and giving it to Naruto, Danzo greeted him. Hi, Naruto-sama. You see the power I possess, Naruto said, turning to face the Root operative and taking off his mask. I was able to make your master submit, and now I can achieve my dreams and be free. I offer you this same power. All you have to do is swear loyalty to me. The Root member simply continued to smile. I'll even give you back your emotions and free you of that seal, Naruto said. The Root member opened his eyes and stared at Naruto, trying to determine whether he was telling the truth. The man said, very well, Naruto-sama, I swear that I will follow you and only you. Naruto smirked and then pushed Ritsu to his finger before jabbing him in the head with it. The man's appearance changed as before, with the exception that his haori was sleeveless and had the kanji for 3 on the back. The tanto on his back had changed into a wakizashi. The Root operative, panting, got to his feet and looked at his tongue in a mirror, only to discover that the seals had been removed. Thank you, Naruto-sama. With this power I can be free, and find my older brother. So tell me, he started, what is the name of my newest subordinate? Naruto simply continued to smile as he turned around and started to walk away, gesturing for the man to follow. Naruto turned to face the man as they were walking. He inquired after giving him a quick glance. The man grinned so broadly that his eyes widened. My name is Sai. Naruto-sama, he said. Both men shunned away after saying, then come Sai, it is time for me to teach you how to use your new powers.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.